Hello there, and thank you so much for choosing RTV News. I am Isabel Masozera with my colleague
Sam Kalisa.
All right, let's take a look at our top stories.
President Paul Kagame is in Davos, where he attended a discussion on sports as a unifying force.
And the local investors have said that they will cooperate and invest in a leather manufacturing industry. It is expected that this partnership will address the shortage of leather products in Rwanda.
Canadian Minister of International Development Harjit Sajjan, who is currently on a 3-day state visit in Rwanda, has applauded Rwanda's investment in combating child soldiers' recruitments in line with the implementation of the Vancouver Principles.
Thanks once again for choosing RTV News. We are coming to you live from our studios in Kigali, Rwanda. On to our top story.
President Paul Kagame is in Davos, where he attended a discussion on sports as a unifying force, featuring His Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, the Amir of the State of Qatar, Gianni Infantino, FIFA President, Patrice Motsepe, CAF President, and Arsene Wenger at the World Economic Forum. The discussion also featured Julian and Elise San Diego Wave FC President and Edouard Mendy, the goalkeeper of the Premier League club Chelsea and Senegal national team, and Ronaldo Luis Nazario de Lima, known as El Fenomeno, widely considered one of the greatest players of all time. President Paul Kagame also met with Francis de Souza, the CEO of Illumina, on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum annual meeting.
In more news, the Rwanda Defense Force has requested that the expanded joint verification mechanism to investigate cross-border selling on Rwanda territory by RDC armed forces that on Monday, the 23rd May 2022, between 9:59 and 10:20 hours, the FARDC rocket shelling hit Kinyiji and Nyanje sectors in Musanze district, which also borders Gahunga sector in Burera district, injuring several civilians and damaging property. Colonel Ronald Rivanga, Rwanda's military spokesperson, has described the situation in the area as normal and security has been assured. Those injured are receiving treatment, and also officials are assessing the extent of the damage. He has confirmed that the RDF has requested for an urgent investigation by the Regional Expanded Joint Verification Mechanism, and that Rwandan authorities are also engaging their DRC counterparts over the incident.
And moving ahead to other matters, the local investors have said they will cooperate to invest in a leather manufacturing industry. It is expected that this partnership will address the shortage of leather products in Rwanda. Shislen Mugwaneza filed this report.
Jalik Umuhoza represents Moza Design Company in Rwanda that manufactures leather shoes at Gikondo in Kigali City. He has mentioned that the main challenge they face in manufacturing process is shortage of leather.
We get leather from local market and import some abroad, but the ones processed by Rwandans are not of the better quality, and the way of processing them is not fast, which increases their price.
Apart from a shortage of leather, there are other challenges like having no processing machines and shortage of leather processing facilities. During the RPF Congress in April this year, President Paul Kagame called for this matter to be addressed.
This question is directed not to just those in charge of investment, but all of us. Why have we continued to fail when it comes to Rwanda producing shoes? We have the leather to do it, because we have cattle and other livestock, yet when such animals are slaughtered for their meat, their skins are either thrown away or sold. Yet some 20 years ago, a leather manufacturer here in Africa told me that Rwanda has been found to be among the best sources of leather globally, or something to that effect. Instead of exporting those animal skins, why don't we set up those leather processing factories here and increase our own revenue? and the country's capacity to do such things. As Vice Chairman Wazivamo was saying, among the solutions to be adopted, why don't you include that so that it is done quickly? Commerce Minister, or you the people at RDB, what problems did you encounter? What are the challenges you have faced when looking for ways to set up industries that those making shoes and such are included? If it is a problem of funding, we can look for the money so the factories can be built.
ibyo mu byo muzashyira mu myanzuro kuki tutabikora vuba.
PSF members already started finding solutions to the problem, wherein last week they visited the Saj Tannery, a leather manufacturing industry in Egypt. They have decided to invest in this industry. We have already started a company. We have got a partner here. We assured him that we shall collaborate with him and we won't buy shoes, bags from afar. We shall get good and quality leather goods. We already have a monitoring team that will do follow-up. We shall come together after reaching in Rwanda, as it is in our culture, review the project and progress.
When people work together, they get a courage to work hard and achieve more. We found that cooperation helped these people to reach far. They joined forces, those with ideas, money, knowledge. They could bring them together and achieve something tangible.
It's been 20 years since Saj Tannery started operating in Egypt. The CEO and founder of the industry, Mohamed Saj, has said that he's ready to cooperate with Rwandans and build an exemplary leather processing industry in the region from which Rwanda is located.
This is what we discussed today, that we are making this to make the investment together, because this is very important. Support also from the government for everything, because this is not small investment, is not small industry, and we are ready to come to invest in Rwanda together of Rwanda side.
Though both sides agreed to cooperate in investment, the project is still undergoing a comprehensive review of all the requirements to ensure that the industry to be established is capable of processing at least 600 leathers per day. Gislen Mgwaneza, RTV News.
You're still watching RTV News. Now, Djibouti port authorities believe that the construction of the railway link with Ethiopia is a solution to delay transportation of goods, hence making it easy to transport goods from Ethiopia to Rwanda through air transport. Take a look.
The Djibouti-Addis Ababa railway line in Ethiopia has been in operation for 3 years and uses electricity, which means that it is faster than the ones that use fuel. The 760-kilometer railway line takes 18 hours for a train to transport goods and less than 12 hours while transporting passengers, which is considered a solution, especially for speeding the transportation of commodities, according to Abdul Haman Al-Daher, the head of the Nagad Railway Park.
On a déjà relié au port de EZTD, les principaux ports de Djibouti.
We have integrated this railway to all parts of the port, including the DMP and the entry point for containers. The next part is to integrate this route with the area that receives petrol. We are doing everything necessary to satisfy our market in Ethiopia because 90% of the products they import pass here. The transportation has been accelerated. So, to me, this railway route is very important.
Que les camions. Donc pour moi, c'est le moment d'en profiter et de relier les trains avec les ports.
The entire operation of the train, while moving from one area to another, is monitored using modern technology to obtain information which is shared to the railway inspection authorities, as explained by the head of the inspection department.
The system that we use, the name is OCC. OCC means the Central Command of Railway. So we use the command system by computer. So it is important for goods and fertilizer and containers because it gives the safe for materials. So when we give the route for their train, it is so it's safe. So the system that we use until now in our railway, in Djibouti Ethiopia Railway, is the system who use command center command automatic blocking system.
One of the priorities of the African Union is to boost the economies of its member states, fueled by easy transportation of goods and facilitating intra-African trade, with no country left behind. The Director General of the Ethiopia-Djibouti Railways, Abdi Zennebe, finds that this will be achieved only if African countries work together to provide the necessary infrastructure.
Most African countries, all African countries, share this vision. This vision is captured in the 2063 vision document, as you know, the African agenda. And that one of the major areas is interlinkage among African countries. With the ideals of the Continental Free Trade Area and corridor development programs, we are trying to bring about that connectivity with the continent needs for its economic transformation. And industrial transitions also can be possible with the provision that we can provide safe, reliable and seamless transportation, and linking these different transportation sectors, the shipping industry with the rail and with the road and with the airlines industries is a crucial thing in the Horn of Africa. As part of the realization of a bigger dream of African unification, we are trying to ensure this connectivity.
Landlocked countries like Rwanda face challenges of transporting goods and other commodities. Rwanda's ambassador to Ethiopia and Djibouti, Hope Tumukunde Gasatura, noted that this railway link between Djibouti and Ethiopia has a significant impact on the economies of the East African Community countries, since it is routed to the port of Djibouti on the Red Sea. Hence, it is a catalyst to accelerating trade.
The Djibouti route is very strategic. It makes it easy to go to China, India, or even other Asian countries, plus Europe. This can be made productive. The country also relies mostly on imports. Thus, Rwanda private sector practitioners can make use of that opportunity and bring different food commodities. Djibouti has fish and salt, and that is an opportunity to exchange different products.
The Ethiopia-Djibouti railway route was completed in 2019 at a cost of $280 million, part of the Sino-Africa Sea Air program to accelerate the transportation of goods from countries like China and other countries to landlocked countries, especially in Africa, where goods are transported by land and air. And now up to agriculture matters. Rwanda's Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources has noted that properly preparing the country's wetlands and engaging in a large-scale irrigation has helped improve food security over the past 5 years. And as Betty Mutan reports, the observation was made during a joint press conference with the Pan-African Movement Rwanda chapter to look at achievements in building resilient and inclusive African food systems while tackling nutrition and climate change.
Farmers in different parts of the country understand the consequences when the wetlands are not properly prepared.
There
are no terraces, therefore water from all sides come and power in this swamp, and that's why you find it is full, and even the sun spoils the crops in this swamp.
Crops you grow, whether sweet potatoes, yams, or even vegetables, the rain comes and takes all of them, and you get nothing. The time of growing rice, we will not grow it, because no seeds, they are all lost due to the heavy rain. The Director General for Planning in the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources, Dr. Chantal Ingabire, has observed that a lot has been done when it comes to the management of the country's wetlands, not forgetting large-scale irrigation, which has increased food productivity.
I've already mentioned that we have big projects
fighting to increase productivity and also production of agriculture in general. And we are seeing good results out of the investment the government is putting in agricultural development.
According to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations in 2020, up to 21% of all Africans were affected by food insecurity. The chairperson of Pan-African Movement Rwanda chapter, Honorable Protem Son, has stressed that Africa should find solutions to newer challenges such as food shortages and price increases that have been caused by Russia-Ukraine war.
We shouldn't rely on one source, but most importantly, what we need, can we make them? Can we make what we need? Or can we assess it into intra-African trade? So we need to strengthen the inter-African trade, and we need also to look at the whole of Africa and say, what in general we need, is there any comparative advantages from countries so that it's encouraged, it's financed to do that, and others knowing that they can easily access what is produced there.
The Pan-African movement seeks to promote the dignity and solidarity of Africans through home-growing solutions. Wednesday will be Africa Day, and this year the theme is focusing on building resilient and inclusive African food systems while tackling nutrition and climate change challenges. Betty Mutoni, RTV News.
Thank you, Betty. Now, Canadian Minister of International Development, Harjit Sajjan, who is currently on a 3-day visit to Rwanda, has applauded the nation's achievement in combating child soldier recruitment in line with the implementation of the Vancouver Principles. He made these remarks at a press conference in Kigali following a closed-door roundtable discussion on the prevention of the recruitment and use of children as soldiers. Take a look.
The Vancouver Principles are a set of political commitments focused on child protection in peacekeeping. Rwanda is referred to as a good example to the world in effective implementation of the Vancouver Principles, as stated by Honorable Harjit Sajjan, Canada's Minister of International Development. The minister credited Rwanda's leadership for the progress the country has registered in the fight against recruitment and re-recruitment of children into armed forces.
It's the actual individual countries and governments that need to take this on. So what's important is also a government that's willing and wanting to do this. In Rwanda, you have this, and many other countries. And so we're hoping that other countries will take Rwanda's example, where we can put money in. But also, as you know personally, probably, that the Rwandan government also supports, from what I have heard, families to making sure the reintegration happens and monitor them all the way through. So that is so important, because honestly, it's a tragedy if a child is re-recruited back into an armed group. So we can't let that happen. So we're going to be putting some focus. This is why the Dallaire Institute is also extremely important in this. With the research that they will do, we'll take that research and making sure that our programming money is also put in the right place. One very important point that the Inspector General made, the Deputy Inspector General made, was when you have women in power making decisions, children feel safer. So that's something I want to also message out, because you see it, you've done it. And so we need to highlight that more as well.
According to Dr. Shelley Whitman, the Executive Director of Dallaire Institute, Rwanda was the first country to ratify the Vancouver Principles, which comprise of 17 principles focusing on preventing the recruitment and use of child soldiers by armed forces and groups. She noted that the partnership with Rwanda is a powerful starting point given the nation's credibility to engage other countries.
Our partnership with Rwanda allows us to also talk to other nations about the need to have this training. So when we can say that one of the top peacekeeping contributors in the world, in a country that has been growing economically in prominence, is taking this training, and I say to a country like Mozambique, for example, and their Ministry of Defense, well, you know, Rwanda undertakes our training. When we are able to do that, it is something that's very powerful to be able to say to those nations that if Rwanda, as professional as they are, also realizes that this is something they need assistance on and that we can work with them on to build the capacity, it means it opens up other gateways for partnerships with those countries. And we know that there are boys and girls who get recruited and used as child soldiers. Many people don't see the girl child and the roles that they are undertaking because they have traditionally been also more in support function roles. But one of the 6th grade violations against children is sexual violence against children. We have been undertaking work too where we make it clear to people that we're not just talking about sexual violence though against girls. While it's used against girls, it's also used against boys in conflict zones. And in fact, boys who are recruited and used are also often forced to commit sexual violence. It may even be their first sexual encounter, sometimes, as horrific as that sounds, to commit this sexual violence as part of their indoctrination process. So understanding the gender dynamics from the recruitment process and from the different roles and the different impacts that it may have, because boys and girls also have different ways of dealing with trauma and various other matters that can happen from a health perspective too. To also then understanding the differences of men and women who are in uniform and who interact with the children.
Rwanda's army spokesperson, Colonel Ronald Rwanda, hailed the outstanding cooperation between the Lair Institute and the Rwanda Defense Forces on the prevention of the recruitment and use of children as soldiers, which span over 10 years, as expounded on by Colonel Ronald Rwanda.
The Memorandum of Understanding between the Lair Institute and the Ministry of Defense of the Republic of Rwanda as global leaders in advancing efforts to prevent the use of children in violence by accelerating the effective implementation of the Vancouver Principles, a complementary instrument to the Kigali Principles on Protection of Civilians. The key mission of the Ministry of Defense and the Rwanda Defense Force in our peacekeeping operations is to protect civilians wherever we operate. The Lair Institute Center of Excellency brings a unique approach and expertise to combating the issue of the use of children in conflict situations on the continent and beyond.
The Lair Institute and the Government of Canada will partner to continue to promote the Vancouver Principles across the African continent, as well as mitigate the factors that coerce and motivate children to engage in armed violence.
Monday is the International Day to End Obstetric Fistula. The condition may arise in women during a childbirth and can also be brought about by genetical diseases. The World Health Organization says approximately 500,000 women in the world suffer from the condition, the majority of whom reside in sub-Saharan Africa, Asia, South America, and the Middle East, where numbers have also been on the rise. A practicing gynecologist at Kibagabaga Hospital says women in Rwanda also deal with obstetric fistula, but the numbers have gone down because 90% of the births in Rwanda happen in hospitals.
One
of the problems that arise from a childbirth is prolonged labor, which could be caused by an expecting mother to getting immediate medical assistance. Some women still insist on home birth, and the prolonged labor that comes with it is likely to adjoin urinary and stool pathways. Teenage pregnancies are at high risk of contracting the disease, and it isn't uncommon for a contraction to be one of the complications of a C-section.
Ariko uko bigenda bitinda bigenda bigabanya amahirwe yo kuba yakira neza.
Dr. Gilbert Witonze goes on to emphasize that the conditions that lead to obstetric fistula usually cost a child its life.
Ubwo buryo butuma umwana atinda mu nzira.
Prolonged labor causes the child respiratory complications that may end in death. There is a set time period for a labor, and when it is prolonged and complications arise, a C-section is advised. Some of the impacts of prolonged labor include expecting mother contracting obstetric fistula or loss of the child's life.
Bakagana ivuriro kuko uburyo bwo kubafasha burahari.
And the World Health Organization says the COVID-19 pandemic has hindered different activities and initiatives aimed at preventing the disease. The problems most families are facing have created a situation where approximately 13 million girls will find themselves in marriages they are not of the age to before in 2030, with teen pregnancies increasing, the risk of obstetric fistula arising.
That's all the time we had for you, folks. Thank you so much for your company. I'm Isabel Masozera with my colleague
Sam Kalisa.
We'll see you soon.
Goodbye.